All right, Outcast Wanderer, how's it going? We are. Give me a second here. Getting back. Ow! I am freaking sore. I'm getting back on my ball here. Some of you guys know I sit on one of those little. Let me get to my streaming stuff. Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right, I sit on a little ball. I had a really good heavy duty like gaming chair that I sat in, but it was separating and stuff, and I was like, let me see what one of these little balls are. So I got one of those like heavy duty, you can like sit on it and bounce around and roll. I actually been sitting on this thing for months and I love it. Oh, probably like 6 months if I had to guess. I don't know. I'd have to go check and see how long ago I got it. But all right, what are we doing? So, anybody hanging out? We'll do some lab building today, and yeah, if you guys want to do some lab stuff, we got to fix a couple labs. I got to take kind of like an inventory of where the course is because I kind of fell off. I've been just working on my dissertation like heavily, and I fell off. We did unit 6, 7, 8, and 9 together, so we did those four actual like the presentations, but I never recorded them. So I need to go back and clean up my notes, clean up the presentation. So that's probably part of what I'm going to do right now. Also, I think I did like when we did 7, I think I had not checked, like I had not checked what the course actually called for. Well, the other course, and I jumped forward. So we did like 8 as 7 and 7 as 8. So everything was all messed up. I just basically have to go back and fix everything. So if you guys want to hang out with me and do that, you can. If you want to, I've got my little Stream Deck too, so I can play around with my sounds on Stream Deck. I need to make some more of them. I got a bunch of sounds. Maybe I need some. If any of you guys recognize anything that I often reference that I need to get, you know, some of these I reference, but I don't really say them.
You get nothing. You lose.
Those.
Good day, sir.
I love that one. I need to get some more though, but yeah, Fisherman sent me this little Stream Deck, and that's a pretty fun little thing. So, all right. Other than this, let's check the lab real quick. Make sure everything looks good over there. Make sure my logs look interesting. Okay. Systems are reporting. Users are logged in. Okay. I also have, oh man, I'm not even in my, I must have restarted something here in the home lab. No. So let's go. Nope. It would help if I knew my password. Let's just close it. Yeah. It would help if I knew my password or my username. Yep. Let's get my screen session here. We were looking around at these things. All right, so we got the home lab back up if we need to hop in there and do any work. I don't think we have anything super important going on. Yeah, nobody's connected, so if we needed to do any, maintenance, we could. We're not going to do any maintenance today. We normally do that on Sunday nights if I'm going to. Other things real quick before I kind of dive into my normal madness. We have a Discord. You guys are welcome to hang out in there. There are a bunch of events. I think we're at 44 and some change hundred people in there, so that's kind of good. There's events coming up. The automation group is not starting back up again until January 3rd. Just so you guys know, that is starting up again. It's just not going to be until 3rd. And we will be in week 10. So we'll be doing week 10. I'm getting all caught up on 6, 7, 8, 9, getting them all cleaned up. I'm going to get them recorded and put over on YouTube. So people that were following the course on YouTube, you see, I think units 1 through 5 are up. I need to start putting the other ones in there. We've done the meetings and we've had the talks. I just need to put together, in some cases, the presentations a little more nice, and then run run the recording. So that's coming up again for people that want to do into that. We do have on Saturday, December 27th, since we don't really have anything that night, I just set something for 5 for people that want to get into streaming. If you just want to see like how you set it up in OBS and I don't know. There's a bunch of little things. I've done this one before, and it's about an hour, hour and a half where we sit around and talk about stuff. But if you guys want to see how to like do, I have a bunch of little. Actually, I don't really. Let me see if I have. I don't have the setup. Actually, I don't think I have them set in here right now. Hold on, let me go to streaming. I have just a bunch of dumb stuff set up where I can use keybinds over on my mouse. So I got a little mouse over here with I use a trackball mouse and that kind of stuff. So anyways, that's all there. Also, I set this up because I wanted to show you guys this. I thought this was kind of funny. So there's a mall out here in Metro called Metro Center in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was they started demolishing it. It's been out here for like 50 plus years, and some of you may recognize this from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. It's where they recorded Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, which is an old movie from the 90s maybe. And my wife got these pictures and these little blocks as a gift from her boss. He went over there and he actually I didn't know until after I posted this. He actually went over there and pulled these off the pile of rubble and put them in these little things and gave them to my wife and the other woman that works on the help desk. So I thought that was kind of nice. There were at one point this parking lot was in the 90s. There were more cars stolen out of here than any other place in the U.S. That's kind of a fun fact. And at one point there were 2 cars stolen an hour out of this parking lot. You can go look those crime stats up from the 90s. I remember that being reported, and I was like, that is a ridiculous amount of cars to be stolen out of a parking lot during a working day. But all right. And then looks like people are joining. So you can always hop in the Discord. The bot will welcome you. The bot will also talk trash if you're not, if you ask it questions incorrectly and that kind of stuff. All right. Let's go and do let's look at the labs that are done. And then we'll go, let me think of how I want to do this. I think we got to fix 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's go look real quick at the... Oh shoot, let's look what we got here. In our Linux group, we got that's systems administration course. We got an automation course, and here's what I have set up already, right? Like here's the things we've already done or we need to work on. So let's just pull up all the things that we need to probably work on. So let's go start with Unit 6. And let's go look at, so it looks like I did push this out as a PDF, but let's make sure that looks right. So I'll pull this up. And here's our Linux 6 automation worksheet. I think the guys have already turned this into the book too. Yeah, so there's our 2 discussions. There's kind of what a container image workflow might look like. Yeah, I think that one looks like it's done. So we'll call that done. I also need to, I have notes here. I might do something like this. Hold on. And then actually lab. Those would be the... So let's go unit 6, 7, 8, 9. And I know 8 and 9's lab are done, but we'll get to them here in a second. So we're on 6. We know that the worksheet is... I wish I could cross this off, but I'll just say... I'll just put like an X, like we're done, right? Presentation, let's go check the presentation. The recording for this one is for sure not done, but let's go check this. So here's our automation. Did I finish this or not? I don't even remember. Hey Dojo Drummer, how's it going? Let's see. Questions. Variable precedence. So that was last week's. That's correctly there. Unit 5 review was all of Unit 5, so that's what Unit 5 looked like, yep. This week was release engineering and Aptainer, so we had those two discussion topics, and then these were the things that we're doing. Unit 6 had these components, okay, and the things that we were going to do, okay. Container image workflow, Docker images, and okay, so we had that. So I'm going to call 6 presentation done. I know the lab is not done, so we're going to just leave this here and the recording here. So we know that we need to work on those two things. So then let's go up here. Let's go in Unit 7. Let's go look at, did I finish the worksheet? Because I'm pretty sure I didn't finish the worksheet for this one. So this will just kind of be my notes for what I have to work on. We got that we got the discussions done. We got this Terraform part done. And that was this was like you were looking at this and then answering questions about it. But I swear Unit 7 and Unit 8 got mixed up, so let me think about this. Is that the right? Let's go look at Unit 8. Man. Let's go look at Unit 8 real quick. Oh, man. Okay. Unit 8 does have a problem with recreating environments and this, but I definitely did not finish the I don't think this worksheet's done. I have more stuff to add into this for sure. But Unit 8 was, let's go look at that real quick. Dojo Drummer said, do you have a recommendation of hardware and a network map for Home Lab? Just watched Techno Tim's video. Made me think of the I'm behind 7 proxies meme. Yeah, so if you need, so some of the guys at work have been using a tool called, oh shoot, I just brought this tool up the other day and I'm trying to think of its name. It's a lab tool. Hold on, let me see if I have, let me check my notes real quick. Yeah, 7 reverse proxies for sure. Hold on, what was the name of that? I know exactly where I can find the reference for it. Give me a second here. It was called, it was our, it was a brown bag meeting that we had for work. But I swear, oh, it's called NetBox. So we'll go look that up here. But if you're talking about like a good way to draw out like a network map, the guys that I know that are working on this stuff are swearing by this NetBox tool. I have not really used it yet though. I saw a demo on it. It's definitely cool. They've got a GitHub on it that'll show you some stuff. I'll link it to you guys if you want it. The thing that I thought was interesting about it is it's heavily like very API driven. And what that means is for those of us that want to pull inventories, you can do inventory stuff with it. For those of us that want to run Ansible playbooks from those inventories, for me, so I'm a little, I don't even want to say I'm old-fashioned because that's not a correct term for what I'm about to say. I'm kind of set in my ways is a more correct way to say what I'm about to say. But if I had a tool like this, right, that can be updated dynamically and all these other things, some of you are going to think what I'm about to say is weird, but some of you that have been administering systems for a long time might agree with me, I think. If I'm going to be hitting a set of systems, right, and I have them, like this NetBox tool can be the best tool ever made. But it's like fluid, it's dynamic, right? It's almost like if you guys have ever seen like up in the frozen north when the waves actually freeze and it's like this slushy ocean waves coming in. That's kind of how like any of these type of tools would be, even if they're perfect. So what I do is every morning I pull a version of the inventory and date it for that day. And for that day, my automations run from that like locked in version of the inventory. And some of you are going to be like, man, that's kind of weird. Like, Scott, why do you do that? I have a very specific reason, because it's almost like I'm snapshotting each inventory, because that inventory, these tools that are great at like maintaining the exact current, like, data driven, all these things are changing, fluid type state of a system, are fantastically bad at historical data. So me getting my snapshots every morning and then running everything off of that guarantees that, one, that I just have them where I'm running my automations from anyways. So, that's a little bit of a control thing for me. And two, I have like, I often get asked things like, Scott, what was the state of the system on this day 3 weeks ago when somebody did this thing? Well, I know exactly what servers are there that day, in the morning anyways, when I did whatever I was doing and whatever automations and stuff. That tool has moved on. That tool is right now. It's live, right? It doesn't have any memory of what happened, if that kind of makes sense. So I'm a big fan of like generating my own. And maybe that's not the best way, but that's the way that I've always kind of done these things. I mean, it's the same thing with the CMDB. When I go to kick off patching that night, I could just pull it from the CMDB and run it, but there's no way in hell I would ever do that, because people slide stuff in at the last moment. I do whatever was agreed upon in like the ECB meeting or whatever, right? Like I pull my stuff and I say, hey, this is what we're doing it against. I get my approvals on that list, and that's my list. I don't change it, like, because the CMDB, again, there could be 7 servers added or 10 servers removed by the time you go to push the button on Friday or Saturday night for a patching window or a build window, whatever you're doing in the system, right? So anyways, my point is, this is a tool to play with that my understanding is it's really good. And the guys, so at my company, Redline, they've been building this into our lab environment, but I haven't been in our lab environment recently. Like, so my company has a pretty good sized lab that we test stuff in before we send it live to customers. And unless it's a brand new build, a lot of times with brand new builds, that becomes the test environment. But anyways, this is supposedly like the gold standard right now for people that are running high performance compute. And then this is, you wanted some examples. This is some good examples. And then there's a tremendous amount of integrations where it works with different tools and stuff. So you're like, oh, well, I already use Proxmox. It's got a whole bunch of plugins with Proxmox. I already have AWX, and then I can, it's got a bunch of plugins with that already. So it's a kind of a, like, it's somewhat hot, but it can also be more than what some people need. Like, not all of you that are doing home lab stuff need cable tracing, right? Not every one of you needs to be able to tell exactly where cables are going in a data center. We do, right? Because like the supercomputers I work on, I need to know where cables exactly go, and I have drawings and stuff that I keep for that. But this is a tool that also does a lot of that functionality for you as well, and you can run it again in light or dark mode. But anyways, yeah, they're hopefully that's something good. I've been told this is a great tool. I have not had time, guys, besides like a little. Again, I saw like it was a lunchtime learning type thing. We do these little brown bag lunches at work. I've presented a bunch of them on different topics, but I saw a pretty good demo on this. But I have not like looked in and said, oh, that's good. That's hard to deal with. I haven't played any of that stuff. The back end for this is Postgres. If you're talking about like a database, this is all back end. Yeah. This is true. I mean, loading data into a new tool like this is there's always a lot of upfront work, Dojo Drummer. In fact, I mean, that's one of the reasons that we get paid well, right, as engineers, is like they need us to set that stuff up. I tell people all the time, if this stuff just worked out of the gate, the salesman would set it up, but they need us engineers to come in and modify things for a specific environment, right? So it is one of the nice job duty things, but it also is, there's a lot of work up front in getting a system live. It's even worse with the government when you have to go through acceptance testing. Acceptance testing is just checking, 1,000 boxes and making sure that and burn-in tests. Burn-in tests are fun. 3 weeks, can't touch the system. You got to keep the system up, but you can't touch the system. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that. But okay, all right. Let me go back to what I was working on. Let's see. Unit 8. I need to clean this up, so that's not done. I think basically all of these I have to work on, and I'm sure the lab has to be done And then I know the recording has to be done. And then the Unit 8 worksheet for sure has to be done. I can't call this one good. My presentation for sure is going to not be ready. Let's see. Yeah, this is not even kind of good. So that one completely needs to be worked on. And then Unit 9 is going to be similar. I'd have to do all of these, but the lab is done for sure. But we can't call the labs done until we go mess with them. So let's go we'll do the labs real quick, and then that'll allow us to say that we're done on the labs. So if anybody wants to do these labs with me real quick, you can do them. I'm going to give you guys the links to them. Go to studio mode there for a second. I'll give you guys the links here in a second. So yeah, I have less things done than I have. I have more things to work on than are actually done. Automation labs. All right, so I'm pretty sure I can call 8 and 9 done, but let's go check it. So lab 8 was a Kubernetes one that we did. If anybody wants to do this one with me, here it is linked to you guys there. So that link will come through, and then we'll pull this up and we'll talk to it. Now, normally, again, these labs, I say right here, this lab is designed as part of a longer set of instruction that is free from the Prolog. This lab book for the course is found here. So that's the actual lab book that would come up if you clicked on it, and you would see that here are the environments and things that we're working on. So this is what we're doing. I'm cleaning up 6, 7, 8, and 9 right now and getting them. I just want to get them like recordable so that I can record them and put them up on YouTube. We've done the course as a group. I didn't have them in a good enough state for us to not just kind of wing it and talk through everything. I want to have it, a completed course to put down there, so that the next people that come along, we want the course to a level where the next group that comes along and says, "Hey, I want to do this," or "Scott, can I just go through all the material?" They can do it, and then they can ask questions of the other people that are in our professional Linux users group about it and go, "Oh yeah, I did that, and I can help you out with this." And it's a little bit of a standards thing. Your development teams have decided to deploy environments in Kubernetes. That's going to be a thing that happens if it hasn't already happened in your organization. If you're not using Kubernetes, you are probably going to be using Kubernetes as a Linux engineer. And you're like, "Well, I've always been a Linux guy. I've always worked." Yeah, but companies want to be more. I'm a high performance compute guy. High performance compute has been pretty set for like the last 30 years. We have AI models that run on our big high performance compute now. We have Kubernetes and Apptainer. Apptainer is a tool that we kind of use a little in the course where people are bringing in and deploying things, and it's almost like the cats are trying to get out of the bag, and then you're trying to herd a bunch of cats in a room, and there's just a bunch of stuff. But the point is, we could either like put our head in the sand and like hate the way that technology changes, or we can learn this stuff and keep moving forward, which I try to tell engineers, man, like if you get really good at something and you just stay there for like 5 years, like the industry is going to go around you and do all these other things. You got to kind of keep your skills somewhat sharp, But anyway, so ensure that you have Ansible module for Kubernetes core. So the first part of this lab is going to be to install the module for Kubernetes core, right? So we'll install that. I can move this over just a little bit, but we're going to be validating here that Unit 8 lab is done, right? That's what we're looking for. Nothing to do, all requested. So we already have it. And I say, was this already installed? The answer for us is yes, of course. And I say, install the other dependencies. So there's a Python 3 Kubernetes dependency that we need. And I said, create a basic test to see Ansible communicate with your Kubernetes cluster. Can Ansible in my environment, right? Like I'm on an environment where I can say kubectl get nodes, right? I can do Kubernetes commands. If I wasn't familiar with Kubernetes, I'd spend some time in Killer Coda and learn that stuff. But now we're trying to build in a little bit of automation using a tool that our team is familiar with, which is Ansible. And I say, okay, just make this vi unit 7 Kubernetes 1.yaml. I don't know. You can name it pretty much whatever you need. Hold on. Let's. I don't know what I just spelled there. Kubernetes, right? Something like that. Yeah. And then let's go in here. And then we're going to just grab this line here and go ahead and drop it over here. You do that in your lab. Localhost is a keyword that'll always just hit the local box. That works as an inventory. It's one of the few keywords that you can drop in as an inventory. So we'll just use that. Gather facts true, vars, we don't have any special variables. Tasks, we have one task. We're going to see, actually we're going to create, in this case, a namespace. Just to see if we have our API key on this user and the ability to do everything that we need to do. So this is one of these kind of like just test end-to-end functionality of a thing, right? So then we go check the namespace. So kubectl get ns, and then we run the playbook that we just made, and we see that it runs and it creates a namespace called testing, and then we get our namespaces again, and now we see this testing namespace that's 5 seconds old. Cool. We have interacted with our tool to the environment that we're in, and this has tested many things, right? This has tested many things, so that's good. So then I say, put in a variable. So we're just going to copy that to 2, and then we're going to go in and we're going to vi unit 7 Kubernetes 2, right? And in this one, we're going to change this name here to a variable. So it looks like we're using prolog underscore namespace. So prolog. It actually doesn't matter if you put a space or not. That's kind of up to you and like what you think looks nice and what your team likes to do. I am more of a fan of this, but I am also not somebody who I see it both ways, and it doesn't really bother me, right? I think they're both maintainable, but I prefer to see it that way. I'm sure there's reasons why people might want to see it the other way. But anyways, we'll right quit that and save it, right? And then we come down here and we run that playbook, and now it's giving a new namespace that we put in at the command line as an extra variable, right? So you can see that variable right there. Prolog underscore namespace dev app to v1. So we're just making up stuff now. He's like, are you just making stuff up? Yes, we're just, guys, it's our lab. We can make it up whatever we want, right? We just want to see that, yes, it created that dev app to v1 namespace, which would be probably given in by an environment file. That would be, look, prolog underscore namespace isn't a great variable name for a team to remember, but we could tell teams, hey, when you give us a new, you want to deploy a new app to your testing environment in our dev cluster for dev practice or dev testing, you need to give us these things. And the base things you need to give us are the namespace, because maybe our standard, and by the way, there's a lot of different ways teams do this. I am actually a big fan of everything being self-contained in its own namespace. There's a few reasons for that. One of them being within a namespace, only within the namespace do short names work. So what I'm saying is, like, if we do everything in one big dev namespace and somebody on your team likes to name services Scott, you're going to have problems if the service is named Scott here and Scott there, because the short name of Scott, if you yell in a room full of Scotts, all the Scotts are going to look at you. Well, one, because there's not very many of us. So, like, on engineering teams, it's always weird for me when there's another Scott around. I'm like, get out of here. I only want, when somebody says my name, I want to turn and know that they're talking to me, right? I can't imagine being like a Steve or a Mark or a John or these guys that there's like 30 dudes on a team with the same name. I can't imagine that. But anyways, where I'm going with that is that is saved, that is protected if you always just deploy apps in their own namespaces. Now you don't have because there's a local name scope. Now you can always, within Kubernetes, every service, every pod, everything can talk to something else. But to go to Scott in another namespace, you need to know how to use that longer naming convention. So it's this idea that, like, when we're dealing in microservices and like quick, a lot of times we just have things scoped to whatever's local. So I'm going far afield and talking about all these other things that will be like in the recording as we do it. I'm really just testing the lab right now, right? So like I don't need to talk about all that stuff. But all right. So anyway, so we tested all that, and real quick, we go to the bottom of this, and I say, now think about all the ways the variables can be passed in Ansible. Where else might you get these variables passed in from? So we had been doing variables in the previous labs, and that's like what we had been leading up to by the time you got to this Unit 8 course, so you should know how to pass variables in. And you may say, well, I would put in variables, these different ways. I would want to know these variables from a team because these are the things that people always trip up on. We got a very specific term for that, but I'm not going to say it on a recording like this. If you want to ask me about that in the Discord, say, hey, what's that term for where engineers mess themselves up with stuff that was easily preventable? It has to do with your feet and stepping on other parts of yourself. What are the other ways that the teams can present variables to your automation? So how can people give those in, right? Because different teams are going to come and use your automations, right? One of your sport teams has limited capabilities to deploy in your environments. They have been complaining about problems with deployments every few weeks. You set out to create an automation that tests that you can do these things as their user, right? So create a namespace, deploy a resource, delete a resource, and delete the namespace. You intend to run this automation daily as their service account. So you're going to set this up to run every morning just to make sure, because something's happening in their environment that like every 2 weeks they can't. Right, they can't, and again, this is part of a course where I kind of explain this. You intend to run this automation, so let's see what that would look like, right? So we're just going to make this file, unit test creation. Control-Shift-V will drop it in there. And in here, we're going to do something very similar to what we already had, which is a local host, and then we're just going to create a namespace called daily test. Okay. Oh, gosh. That was one of those things I was talking about earlier. When I hit Control-Shift-V, it turns that on. Oh, and then I have this.
I can answer that.
For money. Oh, man. You guys are quiet today, though. I'm like 35 minutes in and had very few. All right, escape : WQ. Can I create that? Well, we know that we can create it, but we're building our automation out. So that first part is just, can we build? Yes. Okay, cool. And then I say, let's go ahead and delete it. So get the namespaces, see that it's there, delete it. It'll delete all the components inside of it too. And we're going to add the creation of a pod. This creation of a pod is happening. So I'm just going to press up a few times because we're lazy. Shift-G, O, and then we could just right click and hit paste. And that is not, hold on. When you grab it, make sure you grab it like this so that it's all, whoops. Make sure you grab it so it will indent when you paste it. If you don't do that, I'm going to hit escape, undo, O. I'm not going to do Control-Shift-V again because it'll turn that back on. I can't use my keybind. Right click, paste, and there it is. Now it's properly, the spaces are there. All right, so it says create a resource using name generated by the server. So we're going to generate a name, some kind of Nginx, but most importantly is it's going to be within that namespace daily test. Now, you may say, Scott, couldn't this same test you're doing here be done in a declarative way through like a YAML file? Couldn't you just have these things in a YAML file and just hit the kick it off? kubectl create. Yes, you could. This is 100% could be done that way. But what we're trying to do is we're testing it as that user, and we're trying to use a tool that like we understand, right? Like our Linux team can support that. Maybe my team doesn't understand all the YAML, right? They not the YAML. It is still YAML, but maybe they don't understand all the Kubernetes side of the deploys. And you say, well, don't they just have to learn it here anyways? Yes, that's true. But now they're at least using a tool as like a framework around it called Ansible that they're more familiar with. So it's one of those things where you're like, couldn't you do it 10 other ways? Yes, we could do it 10 other ways. We're using Ansible because that's the tool that our team has chosen to be the tool that like new engineers come on and learn. This is what we write in. This is... You may, like, a lot of us are used to working on our own, and you may think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. No. Any of you guys that have worked with, like, a second or third engineer and start to get up into, like, dev teams, and some of you guys that are coder, I know some people hang out here are coders, and you're like, oh, it's a nightmare once you get to other people and there's no standards on what we're using. Yes, we're going to use one tool, right? I mean, most teams pick their programming language, right? Or it's picked for them, I mean. All right, so anyways, let's, we don't need to get into all that, but let's run this now. We're going to create the namespace and then deploy a pod into it to make sure that we have those two functionalities. And you might say, Scott, couldn't we have just written this all together? Yeah, we could all written this together. But while we're building it, what's the pain and or what's the problem in just doing it, like this? Make sure it works. All right. So let's get all in there, and we see that there's a container creating, and so we've done that first part. So now think about how you can add variables to this, where maybe I can change the way that these names are generated. I can change all kinds of things with variables if I wanted to. All right, so that's up and running now. So the next part is continue building out your test creation script by adding a cleanup required to remove the resources you created. Remember, you only want this to run in the morning to then give you a report back in Ansible, which we have all kinds of other labs on how to give a report to Slack or Discord or Teams or email. Shoot, you can email yourself if you want. I prefer to see this stuff in like just a little heads up, like a message. Come in every morning, see all that my automations ran and everything's working, and then I just go about my day. But all right, anyway, so this one is set the Ansible to wait 10 seconds and then delete the resources in their name in the namespace. So the last two ones we need to add, or the last pieces we need to add, are to pause 10 seconds. Everything will be up. Pause. We're going to get all the pods. We're going to print all the pods, right? And then we're going to delete all the pods. That's what we're going to do. So all the pods that were created, which is one, we're going to list them out, and then we're going to delete them all. The list is really just a check for you. You don't have to do that. We can even, I'll show you guys something here in a second. Watch. So I'm going to hit Shift G, O, and then I'm going to right click and paste that. It's going to drop all of that in. And I'm going to leave it now. We'll have the debug to print the pod names, but then I'm going to show you another part of debug here in a second that's useful for some people. Useful if you do write automations often. This is the way that I tend to do them, but I'll show you here in a second. So let's run this. Let's make sure it still works, right? So we're building everything. We're destroying everything. We haven't destroyed anything yet, actually. We're going to destroy it here in a second. There's our 10 seconds of wait. We can also move it and continue early if we wanted to, right? Just only because we're watching it. We don't tend to watch our automations because they're being kicked off automatically, right? But I want to see it happen. And okay, it created that one. Also, it has the one from before. We haven't deleted any of them yet. Okay. I'm going to add something here, and I don't remember how to do it. I know where it goes. It goes right here. It's an argument to debug. And I'm pretty sure that it's this. But I don't remember. So let's go look real quick and say debug Ansible module. Let's go look real quick. Here's the Ansible built-in debug module. We can go down and we can look for, I thought it was verbose. Oh, it's verbosity. Yeah, I had that wrong. I was sitting there in my head going, is that verbosity? But it's verbosity, right? Escape :WQ. Look at how this came out and the debug. This is the debugs right here. Sorry, this is the debug up here. And, oh, maybe it did delete them. Okay, that was my bad. I forgot. I didn't realize that we had the delete actually is in there. Good, okay. But I want you guys to see right here that the debug message happens. But now when I come and run this again, we're not going to get that debug print the pod names. Because only at verbosity level 2 do we run that now. So watch this real quick. It's going to run. It's going to have created the one. It'll create the one, it'll wait, and then it's going to delete the one. But we're not going to see that debug. Look. Debug skipped. Could we see that debug if we wanted to? Yeah. So now when we run the playbook to see that debug, you have to add your V's in there. So VV. This is going to add verbosity to everything. So this is about to blow up the screen with a bunch of blue. And that's fine because this is, if we were troubleshooting and going in further. But what I want to show you is now we will see the debug again. Because we set the verbosity level of debug to run only when, where's it at? There's our debug, which printed the name right there. But the other problem when you start adding V's is you get the API calls, right? These are JSON returned from API calls. So it's a lot more noise than I wouldn't want. If I were troubleshooting something, I'd love that, right? This is great if I'm troubleshooting something. But if somebody's using it, you take all those messages out. Well, you can do that without taking your debug. Back in the day, I used to comment my debugs out when I was done, and then I would test it, and then I would give it to some other team, or I would put it up in in a place that it could be run from tower, and then give the team the permission to run it. But then, you know, if there's all the, you never give an end user this kind of verbosity. You'll have all kinds of problems. All right, anyway, so that's not going to run anymore. So let's go back in here, Shift G O, and then this last part is to actually delete the namespace. Just delete the namespace, which is our daily test. Escape : WQ, and then we'll run our playbook one more time. It should just do everything right. We've seen it create, run, see the deployed resource, to delete it, get rid of everything, and then now we can go look at the namespace and we'll see the namespace is gone. There you go. All right, so it's good. It's all gone. Oh, and it's still in the terminating state. Look at it. And sometimes you'll see that happen for a while where things will sit in a terminating state. It'll be longer if you don't delete the resources first, right? And sometimes I think even nowadays you get warnings unless you put a flag to delete everything in a namespace. Like, oh, are you sure you want to delete this namespace? Because that's going to get rid of everything in there. Even like persistent volumes and persistent volume claims, like all that stuff's going to get cleaned up if it's in a namespace. So, well, they are. So, all right. Anyways, look at you learning automation. So I can say that lab is done, right? I don't need to work on that lab anymore. But the lab part of the guide we do need to update still. So, okay. So if any of you guys did that lab with me, I know I was talking a lot through it, but it should be good. The Unit 9 lab is also done, but if anybody wants to do that with me, this one's right here. So I'm going to do this one. If anybody wants to work on it with me. This one has a few breakpoints, so I'll take a break when we're at them. Make this a little bigger so you guys can see it. This one says the lab is designed as part of a larger set of instruction that's free, right? And then that's where you would go to get the book if you needed. We'll probably get the guys, as Unit 10 starts up, probably get all the other stuff cleaned up. Again, I'm going to get the recordings out there, which is why I'm cleaning this all up. Because once I have these all done, I can do the recording, right? I just want to make sure that the stuff, one of these labs got busted, and one of these labs I didn't write yet. So I got to go figure out which one to switch on those and get those all cleaned up. But these two I had finished because I wanted to be caught up, and we actually did the labs together. So now we're testing this all. All right. Anyways, your deployment teams have decided to deploy Linux in a modern containerless way. Did I say container? That's not correct. It's got a container. I don't know what I was thinking. It's modern stateless way. That's stateless. It's container based. Stateless. A modern container based stateless way. That's better. Control S. And we'll say updated. Updated Unit 9 Step 1 wording. These are all, in case anybody's ever needing these or if you want to build your own killer code of labs, you guys can. And if you ever need to use any of my labs, they're just up in my GitHub. So these get pushed up there, and then there's a webhook, and it pulls over here in real time. All right, we won't see that this time, but next time we check it. Verify Ansible, and then install Werewolf and prepare the environment. So we're going to run our Ansible version. We'll see Ansible's there. Good. Core 216, that'll work for what we need. We're going to remove the local installation of Go. Maybe it's not there, so that's fine. And then we will... I don't know who this is. Somebody's calling me. We're going to install Git. Make sure we have Git. We need that. Because we're going to pull some stuff down. And then we're going to download a compatible version of Go for Werewolf. If you don't go to a newer version of Werewolf, you won't be able to, newer version of Werewolf. If you don't go to a newer version of Go, Werewolf won't build in your environment. And because we're on Ubuntu boxes, we don't have an RPM to install. There's no nightly builds for Werewolf, so we have to build it ourselves, which is fine. If you've never done it, you're going to do it here. We're going to put Go into the right pathing, which is user local Go and then bin. And we're going to now say Go version, and we're going to have Go version 1.23. We had started. It doesn't really matter. I think Ubuntu came with. We could have done a Go version at first, but it's or we could restart the lab and just look at it before. I want to say it was like 117 or 118, so it wasn't going to cut it. Like when we get down to our make, it'll break on all the dependencies because you don't have the right version of Go. All right, or new enough version of Go. We'll clone down Werewolf from the Werewolf repository, and we're going to cd into Werewolf, and we can look around in there if we want. We can see what's in there. Right, there's all kinds of stuff we can go look at, but all we need to do in here is run a make, and make will do the general check of the system, and then we're going to make install. And I put a time in front of it because this is going to take, it's been taking about 6 minutes to build on these systems. And because of that, I'm just going to hit time. Actually, before I do that, I'll pull up a little hourglass. We'll take a little break. Hourglass. And let's put this up over here. And we'll say, take a break while Werewolf builds. All right. So I'll hit that start, and then we'll come over here, and we'll hit our time make install. And Werewolf will start building, and turn off my camera here, and I will be back in about 8 minutes. We'll go stretch your legs, walk around, let Werewolf build real quick, if you're doing the lab with me, and then we'll go. All right. All right. Keep stretching legs out if you want. You got about 5 more minutes. Walking around, I'm wondering. All right. Still building. You see that? Takes a little while. This is actually down to the end right here. There's about 5 of these that it has to go through. So, what's everybody doing? We're almost to the end of the week, right? Tomorrow's the last Friday really until the end of the year. And I say that in that like none of us are really. Some people are probably still working. I'm actually on call all next week, so I still have a Friday technically, but not really a lot of working Fridays. I guess I'd say tomorrow's probably the last one. A lot of people from work are cutting out tomorrow. I got a thing for my dissertation due tomorrow, so I'll be working on that here later. I should be working on it now, but I refuse. I refuse, guys. I refuse to. Like the wife keeps asking me, "Are you working on your dissertation?" I'm like, "No, I'm playing video games over here and doing other shit." At least we're being like a little responsible right now, guys. Like we're doing a little bit of crap right now. That's kind of useful for the world. We were talking about this the other day too in the Discord. The guys were mentioning like people get burned out. People get burned out looking for IT jobs, right? Like that can be hard. But one of the things that we were talking about was kind of like if you find yourself just doom scrolling all day and consuming, try to flip that around and make things, right? Like you don't find a lot of people that are like working in a wood shop or working on engineering or that other kind of stuff. That I don't want to say you can't be depressed. What I'm saying is it's like you're creating and building stuff. You're not focused on that other stuff, and it's like basically the way that we were talking about it was being a producer instead of a consumer. Like, because you can consume all the fucking slop in the world, man. There's so much slop out there. You can't you can't even drink all the slop that's on Twitch or Twitter or any of those things in a normal day, right? There's way too much crap going on. If you were like, oh, I'm gonna listen to everything political today, you couldn't do it. You couldn't even there's not enough time to get all that slop in your head, even if that was healthy for you, which I don't think it is. So anyways, we were talking about like flipping that around, and instead of consuming stuff, build stuff. Get in a group where you can go and work on building things. I mean, we've got you're welcome to do it in our Discord. Go hang out down in one of the study channels and find somebody else that wants to work on the same stuff as you. Go get involved with there's literally a million open source projects on this planet. There are open source projects everywhere. You can even find some. You know what? Somebody's gonna laugh at me for this one. You can still find open source projects on SourceForge. Some of you are gonna be like, "What the hell? That guy mentioned SourceForge." There are still open source projects that I know of that are running off of SourceForge. They're not on GitHub. There's still a workflow for that for people. So, anyways, where I'm going with that is like people are. I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that. Don't get all in your feels and sads. All right, let's this is almost done building. When Werewolf's up in this environment, you're going to be able to move into the next step, but don't start Werewolf as a service. So Werewolf in the lab environment from Killer Coda, you get 2 servers, and we don't control the DHCP. And because we don't control the DHCP, we don't want to turn on Werewolf and try to actually deploy with it. We're not going to be able to do that part in the lab. That took 8 minutes and 24 seconds. I've seen that take anywhere between about 5.5 minutes and now 8.5 minutes. That's kind of the high one that I've seen so far. Most of them have been about 6.5 minutes when I've built this lab. All right, we do have one other thing that's going to take some time to do. So let's keep going. And lab activities, your team needs a new version of Rocky Linux to deploy to the nodes that Werewolf will control. Now, I've got another talk on Werewolf. It's over on YouTube if anybody needs it, but it tells you how Werewolf works if you need to get into that. But we're going to download a Rocky 9 image. We're going to verify that the image is working in Werewolf here. We're going to inspect the image and test the update capability, make sure we can do stuff with it. And then we're going to verify the location of where that is. Then in the last step of the lab, we're going to automate it. We're going to manually update it, which is not the way you would normally do it. And then we're going to create an automation to update our images and do things in an automated fashion going forward. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to import that. This is the other one that can take some time. And depending on how long these are coming down, yeah, they're coming down pretty fast. If they start going down to the that can start to take some time. But as long as they're moving pretty fast, we should be able to download. And what are we downloading? from the Werewolf repository, we're getting the Werewolf Rocky Linux 9 image, which will be 9.6, I believe. And it'll come down as my Rocky image inside of Werewolf. We're actually importing the image into Werewolf off of the GitHub right now. So that's what we're doing. So it'll take, well, when it starts getting slow like this, it may take a few minutes. But I say approximately how long does this take? Well, we threw a time on the front of it, so we got a little stopwatch. That's nice. And then what we're going to do is we're going to test that the image has been loaded into Werewolf. We're going to use the WWCTL, or some people call that Werewolf Cuddle. I don't call it whatever you want. Image list. And if you ever get lost, you can just do WWCTL, and it will give you the output you need. Again, people love saying Werewolf Cuddle. All right. This is coming pretty quick. That'll be there in about 30 seconds or so. All right. And then what we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to look at being in a chrooted environment. And Werewolf gives you the capability to move into the environment in a chrooted shell. So you're going to be a shell down in that Rocky image that you've pulled in. But we're going to look at some of the proclivities of it. This is an interesting thing because when you go in, here's the command right here, WWCTL image shell my Rocky image, and we're going to move into there. We're going to have certain capabilities, and those capabilities are going to be different. There's going to be still certain things that are the same because you're still in the original kernel, but you're chrooted down in, and you can do things as though you're in a container image of Rocky 9. So we'll see that here in a second. That's going to finish writing the manifest. It's going to take another, probably 30 seconds or so to finish that. This right here is dependent on your network speed. This right here is dependent on your underlying disk speed. So this is more of like, are you writing to local? Are you writing somewhere remote? Is it a VM with slower back-end disks? That's what's going to determine this part. But this is your network speed. I guess in some very small way it could be RAM too, but not much. This is mostly network speed, and this is mostly back-end disk or block, wherever your blocks are writing. All right, so that's going to come down. We don't care that much about that. That's what's going to determine that speed. If you do this in a home lab and it's just like bam, you're done. Well, yeah, it will. I mean, when I do this on systems for the government that are like super high-end systems that have almost no limitations for this kind of stuff, these just blow through real quick. But then when we start doing big computational work, that's when we start to slow those systems down. Anyways, let's go look at a couple of things. So we're on, with this almost done, we're on a Linux box here of some type. We know it's Ubuntu 2404, right? I think we're going to know that here in a second. But what I want to show you is we're in a Linux box, in a VM on the internet. That's what Killer Coda is. It's an awesome site for that. We're going to check our kernel version and our release version of the operating system we're in. Then we're going to jump down into this shell and we're going to check the same two things. So we are chrooting ourselves into that environment. We are, there's a lot of ways to think about what we're going to be doing, but most people call it, it's either chrooting, if you want to call it that, or I'll call it CH rooting for people. Because you're going into a CH root. All right, that took 3 minutes and 56 seconds to pull down. So our local box is kernel 6.8. That's a pretty new version of the Linux kernel. And here it is. We're on Ubuntu 2404. Now, we're going to use a Werewolf image, so Werewolf Cuddle image shell myRocky to drop into that shelled environment that we just pulled down. How's it going, Sending Grounds? What we're doing right now is we're just, I have kind of taken stock of, these are the automation course things that we met every Saturday. We met every Saturday up until last week when I kind of called a break until January 3rd. But I haven't recorded any of 6, 7, 8, or 9. So I'm very behind on my recordings. Also, we met and I have certain things done, and so some things were in various stages of me just kind of throwing it at everybody. So now we're going through and we're validating that our labs are complete. We did lab 8 and then lab 9 is what we're validating right now. But I don't have the labs for 6 or 7 done because they got, it's a long story, but it has to do with Git. and me being dumb, I pulled down somebody's change from Git, and I hadn't commit. It's annoying, and I'm not using Git in a command line. I'm using Git in VS Code. So, anyways, it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there. I just wasn't even thinking when I did it. Let me see who this is. Give me 1 second here, guys. I need to take this real quick. All right, sorry about that, guys. One of my students needs some help, but we're gonna meet up tomorrow, he and I. So, well, virtually we're gonna meet up. So I was explaining Ascending Grounds what we're doing. So we're clearing up. We're gonna be able to say that this lab is done, but I still owe. So this is basically like me doing all the stuff that I owe. So in case you're wondering, what's Scott working on right now? Also, this is going to become a part of a larger, so we're doing this in the automation course, but the guy said, hey, Scott, will you do as much werewolf stuff as you can down here in Killer Coda and let us, do all the werewolf stuff that we need to do there, and then, have a environment in your home lab where you can use it? And I said, yeah, we'll figure that out. Because I can VLAN off the different werewolf environments. Werewolf's finicky in that it needs to run DHCP in an environment. So if you're going to run that locally scoped in a home lab, if you guys aren't super familiar, DHCP is like the Highlander. There can be only one, right? And until there is only one, they start trying to chop each other's heads off. Okay, that's where the analogy falls apart. But where I'm going with that is DHCP has to be the only one, because you can't be giving leases out from different DHCP servers. You'll have all kinds of problems. So we VLAN stuff off, and that's what we do in the home lab with my current werewolf. But if I'm going to do other werewolf implementations, I just have to. Really, what I need to do is automate the stand-up of the routing environments that I'm building, because we have to be able to route into each of the different VLANs. That's the only difference. And we use for you guys that don't know, we use Linux to route, and we're not going to get into that right now because I'll just go talking about TCP/IP and routing for a while, and I don't think anybody wants that. So let's get the lab done. We have now went into the image shell inside of Werewolf, right? This is the tool. This is where we're at. And we're going to do a uname-r. The kernel is still the same. The kernel is not the kernel of the box that we're on, of the environment. But if we cat etc splat release, now we see that we're on we're down in a Rocky 9.6 server. Now, most of you here are at least somewhat familiar with Ubuntu, I'm sure. And on Ubuntu and Debian versions, we use a package manager called apt-apt, right? Right. I mean, probably telling some of you guys are like, yeah, we know it's apt. But inside of Werewolf, or inside of Rocky, in this cherooted environment, we're going to be using DNF. And I say right here, go ahead and try an update. Could you update this image on this box you're in? And when you run your DNF update, first off, DNF doesn't exist in Ubuntu. So you're now in the cherooted environment. You're running DNF, and it's trying to update off of the Rocky Linux 9 repositories that are configured in etc yum.repos.d, right? So this is, we're in an Ubuntu virtual machine, and then we've got a container image that we downloaded and loaded into Werewolf as a stateless, it's a container image. We've now cherooted down in there, or wwctl image shell down in there, but it's a cherooted shell. There is some expansion that happens with these things. I'm going to hit no here. We don't want to take this, but there's some expansion that happens with these things called overlays, but we're not going to worry about that right now. But now we've done that. We're not going to take any changes. It's just interesting that we could, right? We could update that image right now. We downloaded a version of 9.6, and that's going to eventually move forward to other ones. But now we could update that if we wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and hit false and then exit. And the reason we did false is because false always exits with an exit code of 1, which is not good. Exit codes of 0, or return codes, some of us call them, are 0 is good. And when you exit a container image that you've modified and you don't want it to build in Werewolf, if you leave on a bad exit code, so you use false, it won't build. It gives an error, and the error says command returned an error. We're not going to build. If we had done that and had made some changes, like maybe we had updated this and then we used true, or we just used the fact that it was a good exit code and exited, this would rebuild that werewolf image inside of here. And you know what? I don't think I added that here, but we are going to go check to see where that chrooted environment is. So we're going to find it with find from root the name werewolf. And here's all the stuff that werewolf added. But we should see right here, var local werewolf chroots, and then this is the chrooted environment right here, all the way to root fs. This is the environment where we were just dropped down into and we were doing that rocky stuff. All right, lots of stuff. If you're not super familiar with it, you kind of have to close your eyes and visualize, okay, I'm in an Ubuntu box, but now I'm down in this other image inside of the box and I'm making modifications. Oh, but then I exited a way Scott said that the modifications didn't actually happen. No, they didn't. Well, but they, this is where this starts to get complex for people. And this is why one of these days we're going to do a workshop on this, because I know the guys want to learn, the guys down in our Discord want to learn more about werewolf. In fact, it even popped up on a job posting the other day for, you know, somebody was like, oh yeah, werewolf showed up, and they posted it. So they're like, we need to learn werewolf now. Here's where this kind of gets a little murky. The modifications I had made, if I had done a DNF and I had done that update, but then I did that false and exit and it didn't rebuild in werewolf, it still made the changes to that chrooted image, and to the chrooted environment here, to the path, but it wasn't built into the werewolf. So we have our local werewolf here. Let's just go in here, and I want you guys to see that there's the chroots, so that's where that happens, but then there's also the provision, and the images here is just this one image. And this image wouldn't have gotten built, so meaning it wouldn't be provisioned to my nodes, but those changes that I had made, if I had made them, would still be sitting there. I kind of said almost like a landmine, and then somebody else is going to come along later and build your image and not realize all those other things are in there that maybe you had thought you had backed out of. And this is one of these things where this starts to be, you have to think about how you're maintaining images, and this is an awesome tool. All these tools that do this kind of stuff are awesome. It's like that song, everything is awesome. Everything's great about them until you find the one thing that doesn't work, or somebody didn't map in a workflow and it breaks a bunch of stuff for people, right? So this is one of these things where you just have to understand how your tool works, right? And if everything I said just doesn't make any sense, don't even worry about it, because it doesn't matter right now. We're just testing the lab. So do you see the rootfs environment? The answer to that's yes. It's right here. There is there's the overlays. There is our var local WW or werewolf chroots rocky image rootfs. That is the chrooted image path that we're going to need later when we go modify things. All right. So we have left that. We are out of that machine. If I were to cat etc splat release, I can see that I'm back in the Ubuntu box. I'm not in the image anymore. I say you've installed werewolf and downloaded an image. Test that you can modify the image directly in the chrooted environment. So you can do that. Can you modify the image via an automated Ansible process? This is really where the value is. Okay, knowing werewolf would probably be valuable, because there's a lot of government stuff right now that I told you guys, and I'm not exaggerating this, in the last year and a half now, I've probably built about 9 or 10, it's somewhere, I guess it's probably about 10 supercomputers, about 15,000 nodes, and they are all being provisioned via werewolf. So I haven't put Bright on anything, I haven't put XCAT on anything, I haven't put, these are like older ones that we would use. I haven't put, what are some of the other ones? HPCM on anything. I've only put werewolf on stuff. Well, and that's I even said this the other day in the Discord, but that's per the specs, right? I'm not just fucking wild west it and putting whatever I want on these systems and going, okay, now you do you. That's not it. I'm just saying, according to the specs, werewolf is the one a lot of architects are picking. Well, all the ones so far that I've been using. All right. So we're going to go manually change something inside of that image because something weird happened. And I mentioned this, but we'll touch on it for a second. When I did that command in the last one that said www image shell, when we dropped into the shell, a bunch of overlays, which are a totally different concept, were added to that image so that it would be functional. And when we did that DNF update, we found the repositories because there was a resolution happening. etcresolve.conf had been created with like a 8.8.8 was used for the name server, right? But that's not in that image. If we go down, if we CD down in here, and we ls for resolve.conf, doesn't exist. So how did my system, when I was just down in that image, how did it resolve with DNF to go see all that metadata off those repositories? Well, the only reason it could do that, the only way that worked was because an overlay had been inflated with the system, if you want to think of it like that. When we go manually do the cherooting into that environment, that's not there. So I'm showing you manually, we could just go make it. Right? Just make the thing. So I'm just going to make it real quick. I'm going to vi my resolve.conf. I'm going to hit I, name server, 8.8.8.8. Why is there a dot at the end of that? Hold on. Got to go fix. Step 3, text. I swear that 8 has been added, or that dot has been added multiple times, and I have not put that there. That's like, I swear that's been put there multiple times now. Like the AI in here is writing it or something. I don't know. Fixed a dot on 8.8.8.8. Right? Whatever. It's the commits are for me because very few other people. We've probably had about 8 other people commit to this ever, or to do pull requests. So. All right, so that's fixed. Anyway, so that's done. Escape : WQ. And then now that has been fixed in there. So that value will be taken when the image is routed into, and DNF can find the base URL for the repo. So now we're going to use, and we can go test that if we wanted to, but we're not going to bother with that for right now. We're not going to bother going down into that environment and doing that again. Because there are 2 ways to do it. We could just cheroot ourselves in there, or we can do it with the www.ctl image shell, but we already know it works over there. So we're not even going to mess with that. We're just going to set up an Ansible playbook to modify that image in the cherooted environment. This is how I will typically, when I'm building what you call a pipeline, and I'm going to pull down a new image, like the Rocky 9.6 is this one, but maybe I need Rocky 9.7. I'm going to pull that down, and I'm going to apply whatever new versions of software comes from the repositories. I can do that with Ansible. Ansible would be my method of doing that. And this is how you might do it. So we'll go down, we'll make a directory for Ansible, and we'll... Oh, yeah. Wait. Have I not... What am I doing here? I don't know what the heck's happened here. I wasn't paying attention, apparently. I don't know what the hell. Oh my gosh, did I? Anyways, let's make a directory for root Ansible and then cd into root Ansible. All right, so we're down there now. I don't know what was going on there. Maybe I didn't leave. Maybe I was being stupid. I don't know. We're gonna make a file in here called cheroots, and this is analogous to a host file for Ansible. And let's see what we're going to add to there. We're going to add 2 values to it. It's an INI format file, so here's the cheroots host group, if you want to think of it like that from Ansible. And here's the cheroot we're going to use, or chroot, as it were. Var local where, I don't care how you say that word, you'd say it either way. And we're going to use Ansible connection of cheroot instead of SSH, which is the default connection type. If you're trying to connect to a local cherooted environment but via SSH, Ansible's going to crap all over the place. So you need to tell Ansible, hey, no, you've got the functionality to talk within this box to this cherooted environment and build this stuff. I need you to do that. Okay. Ansible will try to do it. I'm going to escape :WQ. And now I'm going to go down and we're going to make a playbook now. So we're going to call package.yaml. And package can be, in this case, just some modification of that Cheroots environment. So we're going to use the host Cheroots, which is going to be that long path. And then the tasks in there are just going to be, we're just going to put telnet on the box. Telnet's not normally there anymore because it's a security violation typically. Telnet's great for like just testing up ports open, but it's not great from like a security standpoint because you can't pass data over it. It's very, very plain text and not great. And then we're going to remove a package just for fun from the image TFTP server because maybe we've got a thing in our requirement. Yeah, Netcat's still around for sure. For sure. Yeah, Netcat's the other one that we use. Netcat's actually the underpinnings for Nmap, right? We need Netcat for Nmap to work. All right, so we've got this. And now we're going to run this, and we're going to see, does Ansible, using that right path of the host file, Cheroots, the Cheroot file, can it go and install down into, can it make a change into that shelled image that we pulled down for Rocky 9.6? It says it did it. It says all kinds of things, right? System can tell us all kinds of things. It did the things that we told it to do. So now, how would we know? So let's build the image real quick. So when you modify things either manually, like you saw me do with that etcresolve.conf, or this way, you still have to tell Werewolf to build that image. If you don't build that image, it'll never go down into that provision section so that your servers actually pick it up, meaning your changes are only local. They never got pushed for provisioning. This might take a minute. I probably should put a time on the front of that, but I said verify that your changes have been put into effect. So we're going to drop into that shell, and then we're going to do an RPM-QI, which will give us information about when RPM installed Telnet. So there's an RPM database on all of your boxes, and that's where all of the information about how Red Hat Package Manager installed or deleted things. And in this case, we installed the one. We also deleted the other one. We can go check that too if we want. So here we go. It's gonna build that image. It takes a minute or so. Again, this is all dependent on how fast your backend storage is. We're using virtual machines that are free on the web, so I mean we get what we get, but we should still be happy. And we're going to drop into that shell, and we're going to go look at Telnet with an RPM command. Again, RPM doesn't happen on Ubuntu. You have dpackage, right? dpkg. But if you're down in this Rocky box that is your container image, you can see that you just installed today Telnet. And then if you exit, whoops. If you exit, it'll say, I didn't make any changes. And then you can go complete the lab. And it says, look at you learning automations. Use Werewolf to build a modern Linux image to deploy statelessly in an environment. You modified it manually and with automated tools. So you did it by just adding a file, but then you also did it with Ansible, right? We are going to, this lab essentially is going to be like the base for the Werewolf stuff. And then we'll have a whole bunch of like building images, building overlays, populating overlays from node, building, configuring a node, and then setting those parameters to be pulled in via overlay and that kind of stuff. So we'll do all of those as labs, but that'll be outside of the automation course. That'll probably be, we'll have a separate Werewolf one that just kind of runs through these. And you say, well, do you need them in two places? Well, the automation course is focusing on automation, so it's going to move on from this and go into all these other things that we do in automations. But Werewolf is still a topic that people need. So, again, somebody just posted the other day that they saw a job out there that said Werewolf on it. If you want to work in any kind of high-performance compute, and that's mostly like colleges and U.S. government, and well, there's other governments of the world that also need high-performance compute. My company's done stuff down in Brazil. Where else have we worked? We've definitely been in Brazil, Israel. Did we do anything in Europe? I've never been to Europe with the guys, but I know the guys have been to London a few times. So we our company has done work outside of the U.S. for sure. But this is one of these things where you just have to wherever I was going with that was make sure you're learning these technologies that are being used by companies. Most of that stuff that was outside the U.S. was probably on the tool XCAT, but okay. All right. So, anyways, that lab. So I'm gonna call that lab done. So I can say done here for that lab. But I have all of these other things. So all the things that are done, I probably could probably start deleting them off. We don't have, so Notepad++, one of the things about it, do we have it now? Hold on, I was going to say, you don't have the ability to like strike through. Yeah, I don't have strike through. Yeah, it's a limited text program, right? Like you're not gonna have all these things. But if I was doing this in like OneNote or something, I would probably strike through these or make them green or something, so they're a different color. But yeah, that's okay. So I'm about where I thought I was. I don't feel like I got much further, except that I kind of validated that those are busted. All right. So we got that. Move that up a little bit. What else are we working on? We have. I got to read a bunch of research, so I might head off and do that. Unless I could do some reading of research on stream if we wanted, but I don't think that's terribly interesting to most of you. Let me link the Discord in case anybody needs it. There it is over on the Twitch side, and here it is over on the YouTube side in case anybody's interested. Again, the reason we do this stuff is to get you guys doing get you guys doing this stuff professionally. I think that's what it says across the bottom there, right? Group of professionals trying to get you guys into doing this stuff and show you guys that there's a large world out there of different stuff for you to work on. We have a lot of events. I'd say most of the events are probably paused until the end of the year, but you could at least click that you're interested. It doesn't cost anything, and then you can go and hang out. I know Colchis's group is probably averaging like 8 to 10 people. Sometimes I've seen more in there, but that's a pretty good little batch study group. Again, take it with a grain of salt. They might not be meeting until the new year. And he tends to let people know before he doesn't show up. Like he'll let you know, hey, I'm not going to be here today or whatever. And there's also a study group, but again, that study group's probably going to be on pause until we get everything organized. But I don't want to speak for anybody. You can still just say you're interested if you want and show up. Discord doesn't charge you anything, so I don't know if you guys play with it. It's just another tool to communicate and work with other people. But do you guys? So this may be a good time, I guess, for some people. You might say, well, why would I do all that stuff you just did with Werewolf? Why would I want to do that? Why would that matter? Well, let me show you in my home lab here, kind of some of the things that does. So let me pull up. I'm gonna pull up over here. We'll pull up my Proxmox, right? So my Proxmox environment actually does it really fast. Just internal home lab stuff, right? Let's go get on here. And in my home lab, I've got this Rocky 4 server, right? So Rocky 4 is up. We're gonna leave him here, and we're just gonna say, okay, he's an up server. I'm not trying to show you stuff in him right now. Don't worry about that. But let's just make sure. The reason I point that out is the reason I point that out is because it's really small, and I don't want you guys to be like, Scott's making us like put a magnifying glass. I just want you to see that server's there. That's all, and we're consoled into him. vSchizophrenic, the new server's good, but as you can see, I really haven't done anything on it. I've done two things in my home lab with the new server. One was I hooked up Hostbox, and Hostbox is that's what I call my local hosting box that does all of my Samba and NFS. So Hostbox is on there now, and that's where all of my home stuff, like my Windows and all my other machines, go to that for backup and stuff. So it's been running that for about 2 months, and then eventually I'm going to slowly decommission the Hostbox that's in the other environment, right? So that's one. And two, we built a process via Ansible where we could add right here. In this case, we used Rocky 4, and I'm about to tie some of the werewolf stuff in for everybody. But across VLANs, so VLAN 1, so the default VLAN is VLAN 1. Well, I guess default in my home lab is untagged. Tagged VLAN 1 is the VLAN that we use all of our werewolf stuff on currently. This environment, I've now expanded my VLANs across, and we can talk over here via VLAN tagging. So people that care about that kind of stuff, just suffice it to say, when you're VLAN tagged, you don't leave a switch port you're not supposed to. That's the main thing to remember about that. And then we have some other stuff. So what I'm going to show you guys real quick is we're going to pull this up, and we're going to go to werewolf node. And just real quick, we'll so image list. Rocky 4 is defined right here. This is the other thing that we did was we connected this for this. So I'm about to show why we do all that image stuff we just did in Werewolf. All that stuff you guys saw me doing. This is why we do it. So this box right here is an ephemeral node. We won't jump into them yet. We could jump into them right here though. Let's jump into them real quick, and I'll just show you guys. df-h shows that everything's on tempfs. So everything on that box is running in memory over here. The reason I mentioned that it's ephemeral is this. I'm going to reboot him. Just reboot him. And then we're going to go look again at his information. So he's going to boot. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't have any disks in him that are like what we would call static disks. He just came up via DHCP over here and said, "Who am I?" And the werewolf server over here responded because he knew who he was via his MAC address and said, "Oh, you're Rocky 4. So he is now identified he's Rocky 4, and he's going to pull two things down that are based on this Rocky Linux 9 image. He's going to pull down a kernel and an initram FS. And then with Dracut, he's just booted, and he is now, as of right about now, he is completely back up as that box. It's almost like a trap door. We were doing all this stuff to him. We were messing with him or whatever. And then he rebooted, came back up, and he's like, he's Gandalf. He's like, I have no memory of this place. My name is Rocky 4. I have never had a change made to me. I am exactly as I came from this image right here. He's a stateless node. He remembers nothing. None of the abuse he just took as Rocky 4 over however long he existed is remembered. He is now brand new Rocky 4. Anybody here ever seen? I'm going to reference something real old and real obscure for a second. Does anybody here remember the show The Venture Brothers? Anybody remember that? It was on Adult Swim. Very, very, very niche here. Maybe one or two of you nerds might know this super old, super nerdy thing. Does anybody remember how the Venture Brothers don't ever remember their past? But it's because their dad has like stored their soul and just keeps putting it into backup copies of his kids when they die all kinds of terrible ways. Because his kids are really stupid. And they're always dying all these stupid ways. And he's always bringing them back. It's a show called The Venture Brothers. Anyways, that's what basically just happened to Rocky 4. Rocky 4, he just inflated from this image on a brand new server that's nobody's ever been in them until we just went in them right there and did these commands. So stateless nodes like that are extremely powerful for a few things. One is compute environments where we just need to bring a system down. But then for me, I really love them for giving you guys environments. Like if you guys don't know, inside of our Discord, you can put a key in. You put your public version of the key, never the private one, and it will load you up here, and you guys can get into the lab environment and do a bunch of lab stuff through our Bastion, right? So, and then some of you guys know, ever since I switched over my PhD last year, at the end of 2025, early 2026, I switched colleges, and now I'm doing a PhD in systems engineering, and my focus is on Bastion nodes and securing, like Edge into environments like this. So I'm actually doing my PhD on the stuff that we do in this environment. So I'm using this environment for my PhD research too. So yeah, Schizophrenic. If you haven't checked it out, for people that need to know how to do it, all you do is you drop down here in the Prolog lab environment, and it's pinned right here by Fisherman. But if you do an exclamation mark add key with your public, guys, always your public, never your private version of the key, it'll tell you that it's added the key for you. And then to get in, you just use prolog at prolog.asuscom.com. And that'll drop you into our Bastion environment. And then some of you guys are like, well, what the hell is a Bastion environment? I've got a whole presentation on that we're not going to go into. But my funny drawing of it, my more technical drawing of it is this. This is our Bastion process, right? That's what the Bastion looks like. You come in off the internet as a user, you get dropped into a jailed environment, and you basically get a set of options for coming in and doing whatever you want in our environment. So, and then you get dropped into the back lab capacity servers, and the lab capacity is always updating. So if a lot of people are using them, there's less of them available. But I actually have that. Yeah, this is auto generated, this file right here. So if we were to just sit here and watch it, nobody's in the Rocky servers right now. And you say, how do you know that? Because these connections will go away as people are using them. Nobody's in the Hammer servers right now. I can just cat it. Nobody's in the Hammer servers. Those are the security ones because all 5 of them are there. They will go away. They're always they're like, this one's the next one picked, then this one, then this one, then this one. It's when it gets edited, it makes sense. And then the auto servers, nobody's in the Discord, or nobody's in the server right now. I can also check it this way, but yeah. And then these are your options right here. This is what you get to choose from: admin course, security engineering course, or automation course. And then you drop into whatever environment on the back end of that jail. Right. So I have presentations and presentations on that. But if anybody, suffice it to say, this is what it looks like. Oh shoot, that's not right. Let's go here. I'm pretty organized in my disorganization. Was it Unit 4 we did Bastions? Yeah, it was Unit 4. So I'll show you guys my presentation for that, because maybe it's amusing to me. I thought this one was funny, but maybe I'm the only one laughing. Hold on. How's it going, Linux developer? I'm just working on stuff. So this was my, like, what's an air gap system? How does it work? What's a Bastion? So here's what a Bastion is. Not just me making things up. That actually means you've got network boundary. We won't go into that too much, but this is like a Bastion right here. Everybody has to come in through one area. Oh, this stuff amuses me too much. I'll move that up so it's not in your way. I need to move that one up too. I always forget that these are slightly in the way, so that the chat doesn't get messed up. There we go. All right, yeah. But anyways, that's kind of how Bastions work. Everybody has to come in through one area. Some of you probably remember the Battle of Helm's Deep, where they're forcing all the Uruk-hai and orcs into one area, right? And then they could kill them more easily because they were all in one area. It's easier to patrol this than patrolling a whole big wide area. Just let people in one system, that kind of stuff. Yeah, James, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I do try to show you guys stuff that's useful. Things, I mean, everything I show you guys here, I do in the real world. So here's how Bastions kind of work. And then there's, we have two labs on building Bastions up on Killer Coda that'll show you how to build one if you've never done it, right? The first one is jailing a user, and how you jail a user in a process and what that jail looks like. And if you don't want to just build a little hole in the ground that nothing works in, because that's the absolute most you can jail a process, is it just doesn't work. You can jail a process so it doesn't work, but then it doesn't work. And then I'm like, well, because I always talk about, like, if you wanted to be in the process of jailing systems or jailing Linux processes, look at these little guys. I was messing with AI this, obviously, because these little Linux penguins are all stuck in jail. If you want to be in the business of keeping, like, if I ran a jail, right, and I'm like, hey, I can take 90 prisoners this month, and then you come back the next month and you're like, how many prisoners can you take this month? And I'm like, oh, 90. And you're like, okay, I'll give you 90 more prisoners. And then you come back again and I'm like, oh no, I can take 90 prisoners again. And you're like, that's something wrong. How are you expanding that capacity? Then you find out that I'm just like burying the prisoners. And you're like, well, and I'm like, well, they're secure, aren't they? And you're like, yeah, but you killed them to make them secure. And I'm like, well, that's what would happen if you jailed process in Linux, but with no consideration for what the process needs to run. We can jail the bash process and not give it any of its libraries, and it just won't work. Give me another bash process, I'll put in this jail over here. But you guys get, I know I'm being silly, but my point is, it's like, you're just killing things. You're not really jailing them. If you're going to jail people, you got to give them a little bit of air, a little bit of sunlight, probably some water source, and probably some waste bucket of some type. Like, these are the minimum things you need, right? That's the minimum they give them in the Count of Monte Cristo, right? In the Chateau d'If, you're basically just stuck in this room. You got to count the rocks on your walls and stuff. And then he sees he meets the other prisoner, and the guy's like, "But have you named them all yet?" It's a fantastic movie, by the way. Yeah, no, I'm definitely a dork. But all right, so we built a bastion. This is a lab. And then these are the things that I think you need. And I actually I need to update this. Actually, I need to update this for my dissertation. As part of I have a process out here for our stream. It's called Stream Setup. I probably need to make the name better. But this is a Bastion deploy for the old CentOS 7 and 8 boxes that we used to run in the environment. And this is how I deploy automatically a Bastion. So these processes here that you see on the right here, these are maintained or captured for CentOS 7 and 8. I need to update them for Rocky 9. It's probably still pretty good. Here, this is there's some tasks and some files, but here's the main. Enable, disable users for Streamlab, give people a password. So, and then I use AWX internal to my lab to deploy this. Here's the lines for Chroot. And these are all the things over here on the left, but being built via Ansible. Me and Michael Pesso put this together 4 years ago, probably 5 years ago. It was a long time. CentOS was still a thing, right? So that's at least a couple years ago. And then it reports out to Discord when it deploys or pulls them down. So if you need that, if you want to see any of that, that's all up in my GitHub, right? But I do need to update that one because again, it says it's only for CentOS 7 and 8, and I need to modify it for at least Rocky 9, right, for our current environment or whatever. So, all right, none of that stuff is what we're doing right now. So, but Proxmox, you just saw my Rocky Linux 4 box. Some of you guys that were here, you just saw that reboot and re-pull its image from Werewolf. So to answer the question from original, not that anybody asked it, I was just saying it's a question in somebody's mind that's watching. Why did we do that lab? Why did we do all that crap with an image and pull the image to not deploy it anywhere? Well, because in Killer Coda we don't have the power to deploy it. We don't have the control of DHCP. But here, and we don't have power to, well, you could reboot them in there, but they'd come up. They're inside of a tool called KubeVirt, so you need to know what your underlying stuff has. You got a P4000 Quadro? What is that? I should probably know what that is. Oh, okay. I am not up on all of those. I mean, I know what GPUs are, but what I'm saying is I am not up on all the names. But yeah, you're gonna throw that in. You're gonna do some stuff with it. See the data sheet. Always check the data sheet. Oh, yeah, that's a beefy one. What's its... Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, nice. Probably get that in there. I do need to add, one of these days I'm going to add one of these little digits things to our home lab environment. I got approval for the wife from the wife at the beginning of the year to do it, and it was taking so long to come out that I actually bought this server just so I had more capacity in the lab for us to get connections and that kind of stuff going. But yeah, we're so the last thing I have to do really before I can start collecting research is I got to get through this internal review board at the college. That's what's due tomorrow, is my internal review board submission, which I think I have somewhere around like 80 pages on it right now. And then I need to clean up I got a lot in the first 3 chapters of my dissertation to clean up, and then 4 is like analysis of what we collect and that kind of stuff. So we'll be getting all the data coming in on what we're doing within the bastions and that kind of stuff. So I'm just thinking out loud right now because I got a lot of stuff rattling around in the head. All right, but again, the reason we do this stuff is to get you guys into here. One thing I'm going to be building out soon, and I'm probably going to do a new version of Apache Guacamole, because the one that I downloaded, I used a Bitnami one, and Bitnami is no longer, I don't think their stuff is open anymore. I think you have to pay for it. They used to have a lot of like free and open source type images that they built. So I'm probably going to have to build my own Apache Guacamole. We will get it cleaned up for the environment, and then what I want to provide is we've talked a little bit about some of the guys in the Discord. I know like Colchis is one of them, and does it say okay. Sometimes it says Cold Kiss, and I'm like, that's not what I said, but I did there. But some of the guys have expressed wanting to be admins in the lab environment, and I'm perfectly fine with that, especially if people want to be able to get some experience and put that on their resume. But for people that want to do that, I'm probably going to give them kind of like a VDI, virtual desktop interface, to come in and do work and be able to see the Grafana and be able to see all those things that are a little more difficult. So I'll do that through Apache Guacamole, and those instances will also be Werewolf instances. So, oh man, those will be Werewolf instances. So even if one of those gets compromised or we have to reset it or something like that, when an admin's done, they can just reset the box, and then we'll have persistent storage on there for us to do whatever we need. So I just know that some of the guys want to get that and just be able to say like, hey, I was an admin for a community of Linux engineers or whatever, and that'll look good. Does it come with Navajo or Apache chips? I'm not sure what that is, Linux developer. I'm not sure. Oh, Guacamole. Yeah. Actually, that's really funny. If you guys haven't played with Guacamole, it is a fantastic tool for connecting in. I actually had it set up a while back for some people, probably about 20 to 30 people we put in there. But what I will do, and I will work with Fisherman on this, because Fisherman runs the bot. If you guys don't know, Fisherman Guy Bro runs Fisherman Guy Bot. Well, that makes it easy to remember, right? Because it's Fisherman Guy Bro and Fisherman Guy Bot. But I will work with him where when users want to come in, what they'll probably do is just something like this, where they'll say like add me or add guac or something like that, and it'll be your username, and then we'll have to probably generate a password, and then I have to see, I don't know like if there's like a bot trust level where if like maybe if a bot, because what may end up happening is the bot can only maybe whisper you if it's a friend or something like that. So we may say, in the pinned message, it'll be like friend the bot. So like make the bot your friend. I don't know. Or add friend or something like that, and the bot will friend you or something. And then you'll put in add guac, and it will add you to Guacamole, generate a password, and whisper you the password. Because we have to be able to whisper the password, do something like that to get you in there the first time. There's one other option. You say, well, what if you just take their email? Well, people don't like their emails being collected. I'm not interested in any way in keeping track of people's emails. That just sounds like a nightmare to me. So I'd rather just have this stuff I'd rather just do this stuff here. So, all right. What else is going on? Oh, we got a complaints department. There's always stuff going on in the complaints department. Um, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we have a fair amount of like tech stuff going on, general chat where you can just talk about whatever you want, and then there's kind of like off topic. Off topic is kind of where I don't really have many rules in the Discord. The main rules in the Discord are just don't shit on everybody, don't be that guy, right? That's really the only rule in the Discord, I think. But all right, I'll probably drop off here. I've been talking for almost 2 hours, so if anybody needs me, I'm always around the Discord, right? So you guys can. It's the same name on Discord as it is here, so it's easy to find me. And I'm again, you guys can ask people down there. I'm always around. I always have it on my phone or on my computer. You guys would probably be, you'd probably be completely shocked at how many hours a day I sit in front of these computers. Maybe some of you won't, but it's a lot. Right, and that's probably why I have the little ball, so that if I end up rolling off onto the floor, I just fall asleep or whatever. But all right, we will call it here then. But I appreciate everybody coming by. I appreciate you guys listening to my ramblings, which are sometimes in some way intelligible. But let's find somebody to raid over on the Twitch side. YouTube, I'll go ahead and stop you guys here. I appreciate you guys coming, and